Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. In today's video, we'll be discussing what Enzo Maresca said in his pre-match press conference. Not only that, but we have a huge update regarding Hugo Ekitike. Chelsea have been linked with a new midfielder, and Arsenal want Noni Madueke. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10K by the end of 2025. Kicking things off with Enzo Maresca's pre-match press conference, he had a few things to say, and the first thing he said is, the feeling that we have is like a pre-season. The reason why is because we finished our season in Europe and then days off, then start again. It's not pre-season, it's the Club World Cup. We are here to go as far as we can in this competition. He goes on to say, we try to train less, or at least we try to prioritise the things that are very important, especially in tactical aspects. With the amount of games and the amount of sessions, it's impossible for them as human beings to be fit for 11 months. Now, I totally agree with what Enzo Maresca is saying here. We've not really had a break from the Premier League season and then going into the Club World Cup. In between that was sandwiched with international break for a lot of the players to go play for their countries. It's just been a very chaotic season in terms of fixtures and scheduling, right? And I know that a lot of managers say this throughout the season. Historically, you've had like Jurgen Klopp and other managers over the season saying, it's just too much football. Players like Rodri last season were coming out saying we're just playing too many games. And for fans, we love it. The more football, the better, the more entertainment. And I feel like we overlook this very often, that they are just human beings. And to be fair, it's relentless work. I look at players like Caicedo, Cole Palmer, Cucurella. They haven't had any rest. They just play. And if they play in the game against Flamengo, then you're looking at 60th, 64th game this season, which is just wild when you think about it for those three players especially, because they've had very limited, if any, rest throughout the season, right? So I totally agree that it's impossible to keep them fit for 11 months. It's just wild to think that, they only play a couple times a week. They train every day. It's an easy job. It's just relentless. They're professional athletes. They're traveling all the time. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them. I'm just thinking of it from the human side. And I like the fact that Enzo Maresca has highlighted that it feels like a pre-season because of the short stop, and also highlighting what Chelsea have said as they see the Club World Cup as a continuation of the 24-25 season. It goes to show that it's just like bolted onto the end, and we've just got an extra long season. Now, if we go far and get to the final and even win this competition, that really eliminates the rest period and then the pre-season for next season in such a short space. So I've been very vocal about this in previous videos. If you haven't seen them, feel free to check them out. I feel like you don't want to complain because, like I said, as fans, we love watching football. We want to see Chelsea play as much as we can. We love seeing the players play. But there does come a point where you think it is a lot of football. They do need to have their rest. They do need to have their break. So then we can start next season as strong as possible, because other teams that aren't in this competition are going to they're all on their holidays, having that long break, that well-deserved rest. They'll have a longer pre-season. They'll be fit and raring to go and ready for the next season. Now, you could argue that we can use the Club World Cup as our pre-season tournament to kind of fix things, integrate these new players, stay sharp, essentially, have a little bit more of a break after, and then we hit the season hard. I mean, we will soon see if it works. We'll soon see if these players are fatigued. Hopefully we get no injuries. Enzo Maresca has spoken on that. We'll talk about that in a second. But I just strongly agree with what Enzo Maresca is saying here. And I like the way that he's saying, we're prioritising tactics rather than fitness and constantly training. And obviously it feels like a pre-season, but it's a competition we want to go far in. I feel like that perfectly sums up the Club World Cup. It's the first of its kind in this 4-year format. Obviously, it used to be annually, used to be usually played around the Christmas time. And now, we're in America, it's in the summertime, and it kind of has this pre-season tournament feel around it. But it's also a serious competition where a lot of the teams are really trying to go as far as they can. Chelsea being one of them. But I would love to know your thoughts and opinions on this section of Enzo Maresca's press conference down below in the comments. Enzo Maresca then goes to speak about injuries. He says there's no injuries at the moment. We need to rotate players. I'm not saying that we'll rotate 10 or 11 players every game. We cannot play every game with the same players. And again, I feel like this is very, very important. In my pre-match, my predicted 11 video I did yesterday, I had a very good conversation with a lot of you guys in the comments, and obviously I love this community. Over on TikTok, I was getting cooked. And, it's TikTok. It is what it is. I get it, right? Purely because of the amount of changes that I implemented in that predicted 11. And I understand what people are saying. You know, Flamengo are the strongest opponents in this group. We can't underestimate them, and that wasn't what I was trying to insinuate. I'm just basically saying that they play a lot of minutes. You've got the likes of Caicedo, Cucurella, Palmer. They just need rest at this point. You know, we don't want them to burn out. We want to use them for the next season. We want them to have the rest where they can have it. But I feel like with the squad we've taken, there is a lot of changes that we can make to put out a strong team and get the job done. I also said yesterday that the South American teams, they play with pride, play with passion, and they take this Club World Cup so seriously. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. It's not going to be an easy game. They are the toughest opponents in our group. I still feel confident we can get a victory if we play the right way. We start from the off, with the right intensity and how we want to play. But I do also agree with Maresca that, we're going to have to rotate the squad. It's just physically impossible not to. And yesterday's video spoke about how Enzo Maresca was willing to break rules, and basically say, I will rotate what I need to because the player's fitness comes first, essentially. And I totally agree with that. Obviously, he's not going to be rotating 10 or 11 players. Fair enough. He's not going to be just putting out a B team and just not caring about this competition. But he's just letting us know he's doing his due diligence. Be like, we have the squad, we've got the rotation of players. I will be rotating 4, 5, maybe 6 players a game and just getting the best out of the players that we've got. Now, that could be that we start the lap over Jackson. That's technically a change, right? It could be the fact that Cucurella rests in that first half and we play Reece James or Gusto as left back. That's a change. And then you've also got the likes of Caicedo who can come off and we can have a Sugo start the game. We can have Andres Santos in instead of Enzo Fernandez. You've got the likes of Nkunku that can play instead of Palmer. You could put Enzo Fernandez instead of Palmer. There's a lot of variety within our midfield, especially other than the wide players. We've only got 3 wingers, so the rotation will be very limited there. I feel like we have the squad that's strong enough to get the result tonight and also rotate the players to make sure that we can, keep them fit for the rest of the competition. But again, I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. Enzo Maresca then spoke about Mudryk's mental health and he said, when I last spoke to Misha, he was quite good. I didn't see him worried. He is okay. I don't know how he is now. For sure, in the next few days or weeks, we are going to have contact with him. And I feel like this is going to be a hot topic in and around the next few weeks, purely because Misha's now been charged by the FA for a ban, and we're now waiting for the total amount of ban that he's going to be serving. Right now, it could be up to 4 years. Misha has obviously hired this lawyer who worked on Pogba's case, who got that reduced to 18 months. Obviously, he's not played for like 6 or 7 months. He could probably try and equivalate that into his current ban. He gets on top to kind of reduce the length of time. Who knows? But I think this is very important. These are the sort of questions that are going to be asked. I think Palmer was also asked about Mudryk in terms of like playing with a number 10 rather than Mudryk, as he spoke to him about it. And Palmer basically said, now's not the right time to talk to him, but I will when the time is right. They're focused on the competition. That's what they've got to do. And I think it's good that, Chelsea have come out publicly and said they're going to support Misha, in the background and help him with anything with his mental health and stuff like that, which is very, very important. We know that men's mental health is very, very important. Mental health in general is. And I'm glad Enzo Maresca said the same thing. Like last time we spoke, seemed okay, didn't seem worried, and I will check up on him when the time is right. But right now he's got a game in like 6 hours, or when he did this press conference in 12 hours or whatever it was. So it's just nice to know that they're not just glossing over it and forgetting that he exists. It's a case of we're fully aware of the situation. He's okay at the moment. We'll see how things turn out. I'm very interested to see what Chelsea do with his contract. Do we keep him as a player and let him serve out the ban? Do we tear up his contract because he's basically null and void it and all the sort of clauses that go through with Shakhtar? I don't really know. I'll keep you updated. I'm very curious to know what happens. I kind of feel for Misha. He doesn't strike me as the type of person that's done this intentionally, but at the same time, he's kind of put himself in this position by not, going through what's been put in his body and things like that. I'm a very big advocate of knowing what you're putting in your body. So even if you are trusting the professionals, I don't know, I'm just very paranoid in that sense of like, is this the right thing? What are the side effects? Is this approved? That type of thing. That's just the type of person I am. I do that when I go to the dentist. I do that when I go to the doctors. I'm just always constantly checking things because it's a realm that I know nothing of, so I want to know as much as I can every time I go. So that's just me, but I would love to know your thoughts and opinions. Do you think that Chelsea are going to keep Mykhailo Mudryk? Do you think they're going to terminate his contract and use this as a way out? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm very curious to know your thoughts. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Frankfurt asked Chelsea for £84 million a few weeks ago for Hugo Ekitike. However, there is a feeling among top English clubs that Frankfurt may accept a bid around £68 million to £76 million for him in the next coming days or weeks. This is huge because if Chelsea are linked with players like João Pedro and Hugo Ekitike, then there is not much of a difference if Frankfurt are willing to accept an offer that's a lot lower. Let's say it's 68, let's say 70 million pounds. It seems to be in the middle from 68 to 76, 70, 72 million pounds. That's a 20 million pound increase for someone like João Pedro. Now, when I spoke to you guys about João Pedro and being linked with him, a lot of you guys were saying that he's got an attitude problem, he's got an ego problem, he's a good footballer, but he hasn't had the greatest of seasons that, he's going to be coming in and improve Chelsea's squad. Obviously, it's another Brighton player, and Chelsea have a track record with Brighton players, right? And just Brighton in general. However, when it comes to Hugo Ekitike, a lot of people seem to favour it. And personally, if we had the choice out of the two, I would go for Hugo. 22 goals, 12 assists in 48 games, I think is a very, very good season. Yes, he's coming from the Bundesliga, but we also know how Chelsea are going to utilise a player like Hugo or João Pedro. It's not as an out-and-out 9. It's that player that's a bit of a Swiss Army knife player, can play a bit of everything in that front four that we tend to play. 68 to 76 million is a lot different to 84 million. 100 million euros is a lot of money to spend. Obviously, you would go for someone like João Pedro if it's 100 million euros because it's half the price, right? But again, if Frankfurt are willing to reduce that fee, then this is a very viable option for Chelsea and other top clubs. Man United are hovering around. I'm pretty sure Arsenal are sniffing about. There are a lot of, I think Tottenham are even inquiring at one point. There's a lot of clubs after Hugo right now. And if Chelsea are going to go get the deal done, I feel like this is going to be something that happens potentially after the Club World Cup because it's a big amount of money. And I feel like Chelsea are going to have to assess their options. I'm personally hoping that we go for someone like Hugo over someone like João Pedro. That's just me. However, Chelsea have been linked with another midfielder who I would much rather go for, and we'll talk about him just now. Guardian Sport have reported that Chelsea have looked at a potential deal to sign RB Leipzig's Xavi Simons. Now this is a player that you go spend 70, 80 million pounds on. What a player Xavi Simons is. Technically gifted, can score a goal, can create chances, experienced, he's still young. He ticks a lot of boxes for Chelsea in terms of their transfer policy. And if you ask me, you've got João Pedro, Xavi Simons, or Hugo, go for Xavi Simons, pay the big money. Just pay the money, whatever they're asking, because it's not going to be more than 100 million euros. And if you are going to be spending big money on someone like Hugo, and if you're looking to reduce that and pay for 50 odd million for someone like João Pedro, in my opinion, you'd rather spend big money on someone like Xavi Simons because he's been around the block at a young age. He's got experience. We've seen how well he can play football, how technically gifted he is, how he can score goals, how he's carried teams before, and he's had really good seasons. And even when he's having an off season, he's still contributing with goals and assists. He is the type of player that, does move the bar a bit. Not saying that Hugo doesn't, not saying that João Pedro doesn't. Actually, I'm saying that João Pedro doesn't. In my opinion, he doesn't. It's nice having that Swiss Army knife player, but if we're looking at someone in that Nkunku mold, go for Xavi Simons, in my opinion. Pay the money. If there's any concrete sort of legs to this, if this can continually go to negotiations and they start asking for fees and stuff, be very curious to know how much they're willing to let Xavi Simons go for. But in my opinion, if Chelsea have the opportunity to sign Xavi Simons, you go for him and you spend the big bucks. I still don't think he's a player that, obviously we're going to break the wage structure on, and I don't feel like he's going to want to break the wage structure. I don't know what he's currently on at RB Leipzig, I'm not going to lie. But he's young. He's very technically gifted. He can play a lot of roles in that front four. Obviously he's not a target man. He's not a 9, but he could play in that 10 role on the left-hand side, coming inside, on the right-hand side, coming inside. He'd be a fantastic addition to Chelsea's squad. And if the three options are Hugo, João Pedro or Xavi Simons, in my opinion, you go for Xavi Simons. But I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Who would you rather Chelsea go for? Xavi Simons, João Pedro or Hugo? And do you feel like paying around 68 to sort of 72 million is a fairer price for someone like Hugo Ekitike? Or would you rather spend that amount of money and go for someone like Xavi Simons? Or would you spend 50 million and go for João Pedro? I'm very curious to know your thoughts. And lastly, we're going to talk about Noni Madueke and Arsenal's interest. Matt Law has reported an exclusive that Arsenal are among a number of clubs who are monitoring Madueke. Chelsea do not consider him as untouchable. The report extends to say that Noni Madueke is on the radar of a host of clubs this summer, including Arsenal. He has not been put up for sale by Chelsea and he's not been offered to clubs, but rivals believe he could be sold this summer as he's not considered to be untouchable. Guardian Sport have also reported that Chelsea will listen to suitable bids for Noni Madueke. And Enzo Maresca spoke on Madueke's future in his press conference in which he said, Noni is our player. You can read a lot of speculation at the moment, but we consider Noni our player for the coming season. This is huge because I personally don't feel like we should sell Noni Madueke to a club like Arsenal. I think that'd be a huge, huge mistake. I understand that Noni Madueke splits the Chelsea fan base, and I totally hear it, right? He's a very frustrating player to watch. However, regardless of your views on Noni Madueke, whether you like him or not, he is young, he is talented, he has a very high ceiling and can still develop. And I feel like if he doesn't do that at Chelsea, we sell him to a club that's not in the Premier League, because you know exactly what's going to happen. He will go to a club like Arsenal and he will excel. He will go to a club like Newcastle, he will excel. He will go to a club like, I don't know, anywhere in the Premier League, he will excel. He's got Premier League experience, he can score goals, he can assist. It's his decision making that's the main issue for Noni Madueke, right? And, you know, strengthening that weaker foot, because now he's starting to play a little bit more on the left-hand side. I feel like it would be a massive mistake to sell to a direct rival. This isn't the same as selling Cech, Willian, David Luiz, Jorginho, a Havertz. Now, Havertz you can kind of make a case for, right? We sold him for 65 million. We had him for 3 years. He still obviously he was young at the time, and he had time to improve and develop still. We tried him as a false 9. We tried him on the left-hand side. We tried him as a 10. It just didn't work out for Chelsea. Arsenal seem to have got a bit more out of him. Fair enough. So that's slightly different. You could probably argue the case. However, you have a player like Noni Madueke, who's still at a very ripe age, who's still developing, who's got Prem experience, scores goals, you know, very direct. Yes, his decision-making needs to improve. You send a player like him to Arsenal, he's going to develop massively. Now, I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans' reactions to this in the last sort of 24 hours since the news come out. Some are really for it, some are really against it, and that's to be expected, right? What a lot of the Arsenal fans are saying is if he's a backup to Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side, unbelievable signing. And honestly, I can wholeheartedly agree. It would be incredible. Having that rotation on the right-hand side, unreal. Some Arsenal fans are saying if you're signing Madueke to play on the left wing, horrendous. And again, I totally agree. I don't think Madueke is an out-and-out left winger. I feel like he's added that to his skill set recently, and we've seen Maresca use him there. And he's had some very good games on the left and also had some very poor games on the left. So I feel like he's still developing that side of his game. He has a weak foot, of course, but it's not as strong. He tries to use it, and you know, credit to him. He is trying to, when he's on that left-hand side, he's trying to use it more. And to be fair to him, you know, it's not the best, but he is trying to improve, and you can only rate him for that. He is still young, and people try and knock his work rate. I mean, statistically, I think you can disprove it. He is a hard worker. His defensive stats are actually pretty good for a winger, you know, across this season. I think he's made more defensive tackles than Neto, and you know, interceptions and things like that than Neto and other wingers that we've got. But, you know, that seems to be the consensus. And I know that he splits Chelsea fans, and some Chelsea fans just want him gone and want him sold. And I feel like Chelsea will listen to an offer, especially if it's around 55, 60 million. However, I don't see a club like Arsenal coming in and spending that type of money on Madueke. Happy to be proved wrong. If they do, it looks like Madueke will be an Arsenal player. But I think it would personally be the wrong decision to sell him to a club like Arsenal or Newcastle or a Premier League rival, because he will go and blossom and flourish. I think that this season, if we are to keep Madueke, it is his make or break in terms of, are you going to push that development to the next level, or are you going to stagnate? Because he was our top goal scoring winger this season. That's an improvement. He contributed, I think, the same amount as Neto in the 24-25 season. I think they both had 15 GA, just a different split in terms of goals and assists for each of them. You know, we're bringing in different players this season. Some loanees returning, some new signings. It's going to become a lot more creative. This is the season where the wingers need to be them goal-scoring wingers. Obviously, we need to improve on the left-hand side. We are looking at players like Nusa. We're looking at players like Gittins, and Fofana from Lyon, who looks amazing. So Madueke is more than likely going to be in rotation on the right-hand side, which is his preferred position, with the likes of Neto and Willian, sorry. That's a very stacked right wing, and I feel like he will have to prove himself. It'll be competition, and he will have to improve. So I'm hoping that Arsenal don't come in for around 55, 60 million, because Chelsea will definitely sell him for that type of price. But I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. Do you feel like Chelsea should sell Noni Madueke to a club like Arsenal for the right price? Or do you feel like this could be a massive mistake if it goes through, because this is not the type of transfer like a David Luiz or a William, where Chelsea players are going at the end of their career, where Madueke is still very young and can still develop? Very curious to know your thoughts down below in the comments. And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comments, because I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you are a real one. And secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.